Good afternoon, welcome back. And today I'm going to show some very basic wheel throwing techniques. Probably a little bit different from most part I do here. Okay. And feel free to ask questions anytime. As I mentioned earlier, this morning I mentioned that I studied ceramics engineering in Taiwan. Actually, when I was in Taiwan, I didn't know much about wheel throwing. Everything I learned from the US. And personally, I like to throw off the hump, which means I can prepare a large amount of clay at once. And at the center, I just produce small pieces from the top until I run out of clay, and I can grab new chunk of clay and start over. And for my bigger functional pieces, I prefer to use a mold. I just press mold to help me produce my sculptural pieces. But whenever I produce functional wear, I always use wheel. So when I just started in the US, and most of my classmates believe that I'm a master. I think very often when the Americans see the Asian ceramics artists, all believe everybody can throw very well. So I always, I got a lot of stress, always hide in my studio space and practice. And in the beginning, as I practiced by myself, we all kind of wrong techniques, so couldn't develop fast. And during that time, my school is very popular in Korea. So there are many graduate students from Korea. And those graduate students usually stay in the studio very late. I was probably the only undergraduate student stay in the studio every day. So one time, one of Korean graduate students came to my studio space and wondered what I was doing. And he kept watching me on the wheel for a long time, and finally he couldn't stand with me anymore. He said, "Po-Wen, what are you doing? All the techniques you use are wrong." So since then, he teach me all kind of traditional techniques. And from that, I built up a good foundation. And then I keep watching attend different workshops, watching different partners use different ways to produce their works, and eventually I developed my own techniques. So what you see today is kind of combination of everything I learned from others. So when I teach students, I always remind students that wheel thrown pieces should give it some kind of handmade quality. Don't work on wheel a long time and make something looks like made on machine. So for myself, I always start from a regular piece and then later on alter the opening or body, give it some design. And my pieces usually started from a regular bowl. And after I create even thickness, I create design around the rim. That should be enough to make the piece more interesting and give it more handmade quality. So for example, this one, I make a regular bowl like this. Now I alter the rim. There are many ways to do that. First one I'm going to show is just push the opening by 2 fingertips and push to the opposite direction. And when the piece has different form, the design will show different effect. And usually after I apply design, I will spin the wheel a little bit fast to give that opening wide open a little bit and make it look more natural. So we design on the opening like this. So let's start from a simple one. And sometimes we can apply design on the body, not only opening. Actually, doing demo in different places is quite challenging because each clay has different spatial quality. So always need to take some time to adjust the local clay. For example, when I just arrived in the Zen, I tried to use the porcelain clay, which drives me nuts. Always fail after I throw a few minutes and pieces collapse. Later, I found out that I shouldn't use too much water. Because when I was in the US, I used stoneware clay, use other water when I do throwing. So now I learned that when I throw porcelain clay, I just keep recycling the sleeve from my fingers, from my hand, to lubricate clay, instead of adding more water. after I create even thickness on the wall, I usually like to use a wooden rib to kind of compress the clay, make the clay body stronger, make the clay particle more dense and make it much stronger. And after I stay in Qingdezhen for a while, and I have a chance to look at those old shots, I have learned a lot from those shots, and indirectly learn from those old Chinese potter from several thousand years ago. For example, on the traditional Song Dynasty porcelain, you can always see all kinds of design on the opening. Later I found out that does not only serve the decorative purpose, also serve the functional purpose. Because porcelain clay is so soft, and when they produce a piece so thin, if they don't add some design around the opening, you can visually tell top is not round. So they need to add some design on the opening. And this one I can apply design body instead of the rim. Basically, I've put my finger to opposite direction, push and slide up while wheel is turning slowly. And of course, after pieces reach the little hard stage, I'll trim, put upside down and trim. To me, trimming is more fun than wheel throwing. Wheel throwing just gives me a basic form of a piece. When I do trimming, I can refine the proportion between the opening and the foot. Any questions so far? Anything about Qingdezhen?
In China also, anybody clockwise?
No. In China, they throw famously. In the US, they throw counterclockwise.
You are clockwise?
Yes.
Taiwan?
No, Taiwan also counterclockwise.
Why did you choose?
I don't know, I just learned this one. I have no idea. So in the beginning, I throw clockwise, but my left hand is inside. That's why the Korean student told me I use the wrong hand. But I'm only used to with right hand inside, so they told me to turn the wheel direction, the other way. But they told me when I do the trimming, better trim counterclockwise, so can compensate the stress in the clay particle. And because I have been teaching for a long time, so now I pretty much can throw both directions. But the other direction I cannot control as well as clockwise. So right now I'm just trying to compress the bottom. So when I do a throwing of the hum, I need to spend more time to compress. If not, the piece will crack during the drying process. And because I need to compress the center, I need to make the opening wider. My hand can easily reach inside. But now it's too wide to start a new piece. The piece might get wider and wider. So after I'm done with the compression, I need to close it back. But do you know why Japanese turn clockwise and then Korean and Chinese turn counterclockwise?
Because maybe the teaching way.
Yeah, yes, right.
Instead of
use hand.
stick.
Right.
So we maybe we.
I think the same way is when you use hand, easier to pour counterclockwise. Kick forward. When I walk on the wheel, I like to try to keep my hand clean, so I need to wash my hands very often. So now, for example, this piece I made the wall straight and create even thickness on the wall. I can use this Japanese tool to make it turn it into a plate. This one is practice a few times, and you'll figure out how far you can go. After you feel collapse, and you know. And now for plate, there's such big surface. I like to apply some design, otherwise it will look boring. questions so far? So whenever I do a demo to students, I always ask students if they have any questions. So some students just always want to create trouble, want to give all kind of weird questions. So very often you can see that you can always create circular piece on a wheel. Sometimes students will ask you if you can throw a square piece or triangular piece on a wheel. But I have seen some Japanese pottery has a square opening or triangular. So I say, yes, of course. The clay has all kind of possibilities. Just need to think how to make it happen. So again, everything started from a regular piece. So after a regular round bowl, you can always use tool. Any tool with flat side, you can push opening to 3 sides or 4 sides. Any questions so far? And I like to make those pieces with lead, with cover. So I very often throw lead and the body with a throwing off palm technique. There are several ways to make lead, but I think this is the easiest way. But when you say time to make the lead, you need to spend more time to work on the body for the flange, create a flange. So there's no really easy way. So when I throw leaded pieces, I always throw the lead first. I ask a lot of my friends and my students, they always think throw the body first and throw the lead. But to me, it's easier to adjust the lead. I always make the lead a little bit bigger than what I need. So when I do trimming, I can trim for extra diameter. But it will be difficult to adjust the opening on the body. So I always throw the lead first. So this one is easier, simplest lead. I call it dropping lead. You just throw center very small amount of clay, and then place your fingertip nearly slightly little bit off the center point. And you have a knob. Okay. After that, come back to work on the body of the lead. And when I moved to North Carolina, I found a local potters all use similar technique. But they use a clay one by one. They would put this clay on wheel head directly. They use same technique to create the lead, the knob and the lead. So this is the lid. And of course you need to measure the diameter with caliper. So when you measure outside diameter, the caliper got to open this way. And when you throw the body, you need to measure inside diameter. So you got to open the caliper the other way around. So I always measure the lid a little bit bigger than the opening. So later I can trim extra clay. So when you do measure inside diameter, you got to push caliper. So I need to measure, open this way. But usually in the studio, if you For example, you keep making teapot, your diameter is also pretty much the same. Sometimes you can use a metal wire, like clothes hanger and a metal hanger. Just open like this, keep the same size all the time. And this kind of drop-in lid is easier for making the lid, but you need to spend more time to work on the opening, the flange on the opening, for the lid to rest on. Because I'm going to create flange on the opening, so now the thickness of opening is twice thicker than the body. And texture is always important for my piece. So I usually use a tool or just slip. Sometimes I use slip to create textures with my fingers. This one's a very common technique. Just use comb tools or a piece of broken saw blade. You can just create texture on the surface. Now, because of texture, your hand shouldn't touch the piece again. Otherwise, your hand might erase the texture. In this case, just use hand or use a tool to expand the body. The ceramics is all about space and volume. So now, now for the flange, because when I expand the body, I keep my hand dry. So when I expand the body, the texture has a little bit kind of twisted pattern. For the flange, some publishers use this any kind of tool with 90-degree angle and press from the center. But I found that technique sometimes make the flange kind of messy. So I prefer to split the rim into two parts. First, so you can use an old pen or pencil with pointed tip and push from the center. Basically, you split the rim into two parts. So this way you can make the flange much more clean. Now I'll come back to this tool. And I always come back to trim off extra clay from inside because I don't need this much flange. I probably cut off at least half. Otherwise, when you, for example, put a tea leaf or do something, put your tool or spoon or hand in and out, I kind of break it easily. So always just keep about half of this size. Just right. So this is for making the flange. And untie the lid, basically you create flange on the lid. You throw upside down a small shallow bowl first and create flange. So I just make a big lid to show everybody. Any questions so far? Or anything you would like to see? And remember, you need to have enough clay to create flange on the rim. So always leave more clay around the rim here. And this kind of lid also, try not to make it too deep. Basically, you throw a very shallow plate. Otherwise, the piece looks like wearing a hat. So now this way you might see clear my technique. After you leave the clay about twice thicker than the body. Use pointed tools, split the opening. And come back, use any kind of tool with 90-degree angle. Press down the lip. And remember, this vertical surface better go either inward, straight or inward. If you go outward, the lid can get stuck. And you need to make a separate piece for the knob. It can be a wheel throne or just a sculpture piece. So this is a flange on the lid. In this case, the body of the lid piece can be a very simple vase with a simple opening. And when you measure diameter, make sure you measure the bottom of flange here. That's the place you need to measure the diameter. Personally, I more prefer the Korean and Japanese style of ceramics. Feel more free. Chinese ceramics kind of too tight, too rigid. So I try to kind of free myself a little bit. But somehow still difficult. There's a blind inside of me. I always want to fix something. I feel it's not right. I always try to touch it back. It's difficult. So I very often apply the technique that split the rim into two parts to decorate my pieces. So this one I'm going to split the rim into two. Actually, this one's fairly easy. Usually, many technique, after I show students, they usually like to try this one. And usually quite successful. So after you split, there are several ways to decorate. One way is to pinch it back. One way is to push back. I think I'll try both to show everybody. First one is you can use tool. Yeah, when I was a student in Taiwan, I always kind of learn about Chinese ceramics related to we call the court king. They produce pieces for the imperial court. That's my impression about Chinese ceramics. And later, when I went to Jingzhen and got chance to travel to different village, and found out they found that some small village they have kind of tradition making the folk pottery. Actually, those are local potter. They make pot for daily use. They are more playful. Not everything so regular. So when you have chance to go China, try to travel to those local pottery towns. And recently, a friend of mine shared a video to me, which is almost blew my mind. We all learned that kind of raku technique, all associated to Japan. But I found the video show some village, they do the fiery technique, very similar to raku. They produce the cookware in a very unique the kiln. And during the firing, after the kiln reaches the maturing temperature, they would open the lid, almost like a big cooker. For example, this is under the ground, and only opening is on the ground, and all the pot put inside, and there's a lid on the top. And when the kiln reaches temperature, they just use the wire, pull out the lid and swing to the side. And when the pot is still very hot, they pick up one by one and cool down, pressure cooling very fast. And those pieces, they don't use a glaze at all. And they can use still to cook on the stove. Very amazing. I don't know. I gotta go to find out. I believe it's at least over cone 6, probably 1240 degrees. Otherwise, it cannot be used on the stove. Okay, this one I use different way to pinch back at the split the ring. After this, you just pinch the ring opening back, but just keep the same speed, then you won't get any surprise. So first keep the wheel at the same speed, and your hand pinch back at the same speed. And once you start, don't hesitate, finish it. Oops. Slow down a little bit. Any question? Okay.
We're just stunned.
Okay. And I think I throw 2 more big pieces and then small piece. I don't think I have something else to show. Spiral. Put a spiral on the body. Again, I always like to apply some design on the piece.
So usually this kind of piece is for about the grade. You are thinking about something celadon or what kind of grade you can use?
Like in Jindezhen, I will use celadon. Yes, celadon or cabaret.
Okay.
But
cabaret.
Cabaret, yes.
Xinsha.
Yes. Especially this kind of piece looks really good with cabaret.
All the time reduction.
Yes.
Reduction.
But in the US, I mostly use stoneware. I will use all kind of brownish, like amber celadon, that kind of color, or temoku will look great. And temoku I will make some design on the surface, not just black. Yeah, for my piece, I still like to use one glaze, single glaze to decorate my piece. And because the piece has texture or design on the surface, even with one glaze, sometimes it can show different color variation.
How about this clay is similar kind of Jindezhen clay or?
Very different.
Very
Much easier to throw.
Easier.
Easy. Yeah. Jindezhen clay, you gotta go try. You realize, almost like bottle. Really cannot use too much water. Yeah, I keep looking at the clock just to make sure I don't miss the peak.
I heard in the Jindezhen,
Yes.
if they will make a very big pot,
Yes.
or you can make it separate and join and
Right.
join.
Yes.
3 sections or
Even 4, even 5, yes.
4 or 5
Yes.
sections.
But as I mentioned, porcelain clay is so soft.
Porcelain.
They have to throw really thick, and then gonna connect together.
Okay.
You cannot throw just once.
Okay. The timing to join is
Bone dry.
some dries and
Yes.
little bit very difficult to timing to join together.
Completely dry. Bone dry. Really amazing.
Is it a secret mixture?
No, as I seen, just slip.
Just
Sure. Yeah.
Just sleep
I think just slip.
together.
I don't know if they add fruit or something, but I think they only use a slip. I'm not 100% sure, but I just see they use a ladle, and just kind of pour the sleeve on the top and put down. So this one, I turn the wheel slowly and again push your fingertip opposite direction and move up slowly. But like during the Song Dynasty, about 1000 AD, the porcelain they use, we call anyway, only use one single formula, only use a porcelain clay. So the clay is even more difficult to throw. So in the museum, you can see some Song Dynasty vase, about only this big, you can see the joint in the middle. Next piece, I just throw a big vase. Again, I show different way to decorate the surface. Any question? Yeah, when I went to US and teach there, I really enjoyed teaching because always students ask all kind of questions.
Okay, we get the message.
And actually, you learn a lot from the questions because you keep working and you may think about certain things. And when a student asks you a question, you realize, oh, well, I never think about that. And you start to look for answer.
Swedish people are much more shy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like when I teach some workshop or short-term class in China, I was sometimes kind of boring. Students are so quiet.
Quiet?
Yeah, they just watching them.
In China?
Yeah.
Oh.
They are not used to asking questions. Sometimes teacher is always right. They just listen what the teacher say.
But I think in now, lots of Europe, many women or girls study Islamics. But only USA is average in boys so many.
No. I would say more than half of my students are girls.
Girls?
In
In
Islamic
US also?
Yeah. Yes.
How about China? Half and half.
I think half and half. Half and half.
When I was in workshop in Europe, 90% women for
Yes. Okay.
so schools. But when in the US, many boys and
Pardon my throat, just a little bit too thin. And I found nowadays American students more and more care about their grades. In the past, they don't really care. And now, if don't give student an A, they will come to ask you why they cannot get an A. So usually among our Asian parents in the US, we have a joke about the grading system. I don't know if anyone heard before. In the US, this grading system is A, B, C, D. A means the best, is good. And B is average. Of course, F, fail. D is just barely pass the class. But Asian parent has different standard. So we were just usually joking. So to Asian parents, A means average. And B is below average. And C is a cook your own dinner. No dinner for you. D is a don't come home. F is a find a new family. You fail a class, you don't need to come back. Find a new family. It was so fun.
And when you put grades on your students, what do you take in consideration? Is it technique?
No, beginning every semester I have a syllabus, tell them how many percent of grade from each section. For example, quiz or final project. I mean, mostly the grade are from the project. And then there's a rubric, give the guideline what the standard they to meet for each project. Again, use the same technique to apply the texture. And to my students, I care more about the knowledge they learn besides technique. So I usually have a quiz all about ceramic terms. I want to make sure after they graduate, after I finish my class, when they talk about ceramics, they use the right term. And for example, very often when a new student comes to class, they will talk about how do you cook or bake your clay in the oven. I told them if I heard that after they finish class, in my class, they'll fail. So they need to use a proper term. You need to say, how do you fire your pieces in the kiln, not bake in the oven. So if you apply texture, I expand the piece, give it more volume. And I don't touch this. Some part will put a mirror in front of the wheel, so you can check the piece easily. I prefer to lean back and look. I don't look at myself, but I look at the wheel. I also like to make clay and platters because it offers me a large surface to do a decoration. For my own works, I also like to use a slip, do the slip trading to do all kind of design. So clay and platters are the good form for me to do that. So basically, if a clay or platter, you start from a low and wide cylinder. And that's why when I teach ceramics, I always ask students to produce cylinders. So I usually ask them to turn in 15 to 20 cylinders with the same size. I know it's nothing compared with in Japan and Korea. They need to produce probably 200, 300 same shapes, same size in a few weeks. Because most ceramic pieces start from cylinder. If they can make good cylinder, then later on they can make much better pieces. For plate and plate, I usually trim a foot underneath. This thing can solve a lot of problems during the firing. So I always leave a lot of clay, probably at least 2 centimeters to 3 on the bottom. And next, start to build the height. So the taller the wall is, the wider the diameter is going to be. And for a big plate, I usually like to make the rim visually look thicker. Otherwise, such big piece, if the rim is too thin, visually looks kind of weak and dangerous. But if you make the rim really thick, you become very heavy. So I would usually create kind of hollow, a hollow rim.
What do you mean by hollow rim?
Yeah, sure. I make it really thin first. And I roll the rim down. So now it's hollow. Visually looks thick, but actually it's hollow inside, so it's not very heavy. It also provide another surface for you to do decoration.
And what was the purpose of a hollow rim?
Visually make it stronger, make it thicker. And when I use this technique to bring the wall down, as it dries, the wall will come up a little bit. So in this case, try not to cut your piece off from the back too early. After maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour, you want to put back to the wheel, press down again. If you want to have this height. If you don't mind, then it's fine. You can just leave it. And whenever I find the air pocket on the piece, I don't fix right away. I will do it when I do trimming. When I do done with trimming, I'll use tool to open this hole and pick up some dry clay from the trimming and fill in.
Into shell clay.
This clay is fine.
This
Any clay,
also?
any clay.
Okay.
The clay I usually don't fix. It's porcelain. If you fix, you still find a mark. pretty much. And now I very often use this as a tool to do some freehand drawing. Can be fish, easy for drawing a fish or butterfly or anything. Something like this. Most often I do the fish in the middle. It's easier. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks. Any questions? You can answer.
What stage of trying do you do?
Later hard. This weather probably 1 hour, 2 hours. Okay. And in Chimborazo it will take much longer when it's very humid. Thank you.